Kakadosh, good evening, good afternoon. We are starting on Pei Gimel Amud Aleph. This is going to be Friday's daf. We're starting in the Mishnah, which is a good 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 lines down. It's the last word of the line where it says Matnitin, which is the Mishnah. Okay, so we're starting the Mishnah 83a. The Mishnah says, Ha'atzamot v'agidin v'anotar yisarfu b'shisha asar, right, b'nisan, which means that atzamot, the bones, the gidin, the sinews, right, of the Korban Pesach, v'anotar, and the leftovers of the Basar Pesach, right? So it says, Yisarfu b'shisha asar, they're going to be burnt on the 16th of Nisan, which is Chol HaMoed. Okay, so you're going to burn it on Chol HaMoed. So again, remember, we're talking about the bones, sinews, right, and the leftovers. You burn everything on Chol HaMoed, the 16th of Nisan. Now, what happens is that you're not allowed to burn it on Yom Tov, right? But rather you have to wait until Chol HaMoed, which means that even though the notar became notar in the morning, because remember, we bring the Korban Pesach Chatzot already on Chatzot in the afternoon, basically, of Erev Pesach. However, though, you don't start eating until the nighttime. But you have the entire night to eat it. But the second that it becomes morning, it becomes leftovers. So that leftovers already in the morning of Yom Tov, which is Yom Tov Pesach, it's already prohibited. However, the first day, this is the first day. There's only one day. Yeah, one day of Yom Tov, right? We're talking about an Eretz Yisrael. So he says, so on the 16th of Nisan, which is Chol HaMoed, which is the second day of Pesach, so then they're going to burn it. They're not going to burn it on Yom Tov in itself, okay? Chal Shisha Asar Yom B'Shabbat. What happens if the 16th, which means the second day of Pesach, falls out on Shabbat? Not the first day, second day of Pesach falls out on Shabbat, which means the Chol HaMoed, or for us, the Yom Tov Sheni, would fall out on Shabbat. Yisarfu b'Shviva Asar, so then you have to push it off one more day. No, it's Shabbat. Yeah, so you do it the next day, which is Sunday, which is the 17th. Because the burning of whether it's the notar, atzamot v'gitin, the bones, the sinus, or the leftovers, does not push off Shabbat and it does not push off Yom Tov. Says Gemara. Okay, Gemara Pei Gimel Amud Aleph. Amar Rav Mari Baravua, Amar Rabbi Yitzchak. Says Rav Mari Baravua in the name of Rabbi Yitzchak. Atzmot, right? We're talking about atzmot kodashim. Sheshimshu notar metamiin et hayadayim. So now, any type of bones, right, which they have moach, which they have marrow, I think that's what, yeah, marrow. That's what? So it's the marrow that it has, shenotar chutz zmano, which is left over outside of the proper time, right? And they used these bones, okay, metamim et hayadayim. It is the exact same like notar in itself, which means that just like the notar in itself is going to be metamei hayadayim, which means chachamim made a gezerah that it's like tameh. Remember, certain things, metamim et hayadayim. That's why we do netilat yadayim, to take away. No, but that's what they do. But the marrow in itself is just like the notar in itself, which means that even though... I don't understand you. Atzamot kodashim sheshimshu notar, which means that these atzamot, which you now used it as notar, it has the same halachot as notar. Atzamot themselves don't have it. Atzamot themselves don't. Notar has it. But the atzamot, which is like it's being used, is like the notar. Okay?
What notar?
Notar is leftovers.
The leftover. Yeah, anyway, how you can eat the marrow inside the bone? You cannot break the bones.
No. What he's talking about is the bones of the Korban Pesach. You're not allowed to break the bones of the Korban Pesach. Right? But I don't understand you. You have to break the bones to get the marrow?
How can you eat the bones if you don't break the marrow? How you can eat the marrow if you don't break the bones?
I thought it depends how you want to eat it. No?
It depends how you want to eat it.
John Jack says depends how you want to eat it.
Okay. No, inside the bone it's the marrow. You cannot get the marrow if you don't break the bone.
Yeah, that's the way it is.
You have to cut the bone.
You want to break it in the middle.
No, one second. Hold on one second. He's asking something that I don't know. Like I don't know the.
But anyway, there's no connection, Philip, because the fact itself is there. It's either there or not. That's the whole argument. Atzamot levad or notar. That's it.
No, but he's just asking some technical. He's asking logistics questions. That at the end of the day, you can't break the bones of the Korban Pesach. I don't know. Remind me and Bli Nether. Let's try to look for it afterwards. I don't know. Again, I don't know the reality of how. But it is,
Okay.
Unless I'm making a mistake. That's what you have written there as well. No, we're talking about atzamot kodashim sheshimshu notar sheyesh ben moach shenotar chutz lizmano ושמשו הוא העצמות הללו, מטמאים את הידיים כנותר עצמו. הואיל ונעשה בסיס לדבר אסור, since it became a basis to something which is prohibited, and therefore לפיכך דינה כמותו, so it has the same halachot.
No, wait. Philip might be right. there is something in what Philip says now. Because if the notar is touching the hand, I assume, only then it becomes like that. Meaning the Masechet is outside.
No.
בטח.
I don't know.
That means that you have to burn the bones?
Exactly.
Yes.
Meaning, you see?
Of course. But I don't understand you. Why are you guys not understanding about burning the bones? That's a Mishnah. The
No,
Mishnah
because
says,
you take a break.
"Ha'atzamot v'gidim v'anotai yistarfu b'shisha b'Nisan."
We said we take a break because it's Shabbat. So now what do you do with it? What stuff is there? Because we don't burn it. Because
Okay.
They're saying eating the bone or burning the bone?
Okay.
זה נותר או לא נותר? זה כמו בשר או לא כמו בשר? זה מטמא או לא מטמא?
No, so then that's what we're saying over here. We're saying atzamot sheshimshu notar, which means, so therefore it's mitimiyatar, just like notar. It becomes notar. Now, why is it notar? It says, Hoi ben asa basis levar asur. Since there's an isur over here of notar, so therefore the atzamot themselves are muktzeh.
בדיוק, בגלל שיש לו את המוח של העצם.
Exactly, and the moach is muktzeh. And the moach is muktzeh.
Yeah. So anyway, it's gonna get burned. Like the meat left over. So it's
Exactly.
okay.
Get burned.
Right.
Exactly. The question is, what exactly is the halacha with regards to these bones? Okay, fine. So one more time, the bones for sure we burn. Remember, the bones we burn notar. The notar means the leftover of the korban. We burn the bones, or we burn the sinus. Now, what happens is that we learned that on Shabbat we obviously don't burn it. But now the Gemara says that of Mari Baravu Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, Atzamot Kodashim Sheshimshu Notar, any of these bones, which has the marrow, which automatically what's going to happen is that if it became notar, metamim et hayadayim, it's going to be metamim et hayadayim. Why is it going to be metamim et hayadayim? Because since it became basis of the davar asur, so therefore it has the same status quo as the same halacha. So says the Gemara, Neima Mesayeh Aleh. Why don't we just say that this is going to be a proof? Why? Because the proof is as follows. Right? We say that the bones, sinus, and the leftovers, you're going to burn on the 16th. Hani atzamot, which atzamot are we talking about that you're going to burn? Hechidami, what are we talking about exactly? If you're telling me that there's no moach whatsoever, which means that there's no moach in these atzamot, there's no marrow in these atzamot, so lama bisrefa. Why do you have to burn them? Nishdinu, just throw it, which means just throw them out. Which means that if it has nothing whatsoever, you don't have to keep these bones. These bones are like nothing. So you just come and you throw it out, right? Throw it to the dogs, right? So what? Obviously, elapshita tibu moach. It has moach. Now, if it has moach, that's why you have to burn it, right? So therefore, what happens? Because basically what happens is that all of them, as long as there wasn't left over, you're not allowed to break it. So therefore, what happens is the moach, which is inside of it, you have to burn the bones, not because of the bones. You have to burn the bones because of the moach, which is in the bones. What?
The moach.
Says the Gemara, right? If you're going to tell me then, right, sheshimush notar mintahi, to the fact that these atzamot were notar with the moach, which was inside of it, and that's something which is chashuv, amtu lehachi by srefa, and therefore that's why they need the srefa, which means you have to burn the bones because of the moach which is inside the bones. Remember, moach means the marrow. Just to remember that. It doesn't mean
marrow. So it's considered like meat. So you have to burn the meat leftovers.
Because of that. Right. You're going to tell me now, shimush notar, that the shimush is nothing. That means the bones here are nothing to do with the notar which is there. So why do you have to burn it? At the end of the day, right? It became notar, nifsalu, right? Once it became pasul, now you're allowed to break it. Right? So therefore, nitbirenu, break them. Take out the moach, and just burn the moach. And then break that samot. Okay? But rather we learn from here, shimush notar mintahi. The fact of the notar is actually something important, which means like this. One more time, very quickly outside. 3 seconds. If right now it became disqualified and the bones have no kiddusha whatsoever, then all you have to do is break the bones, take out the moach, burn the moach, throw away the bones. But if you're telling me now that the moach, which is inside this etzem, is something chashuv, so now you cannot break the bones because of the you cannot break the bones. So therefore, what happens? So then it becomes a basis, and therefore it's going to come. And you have to burn the entire bone. Okay, very good. So says the Gemara, no, right? Why? We're not going to say such a thing. Why? He says, so because again, one more time, this we wanted to say was a proof to that which we said 2 seconds ago, to Mari Baruch, Rabbi Yitzchak. Because Rabbi Yitzchak just said that the atzamot or a basis to the moach, to the marrow, comes now the Gemara and says, we have a proof that it's a basis to the marrow. Because if not, break open the bone, take out the marrow, burn the marrow, and throw out the bones. Says the Gemara, Amri lo, we don't say such a thing. Why? Really, I'm going to tell you, shimush notar lav mita. Really, be'emet, it's not important. The kasavar, but he holds when it says ve'etzem lo tishbiru bo, which means that you're not allowed to break the bones of the korban pesach, bekasher v'afilu bepasul. When it says you're not allowed to break the bones of the korban pesach, it doesn't only apply to bones of the korban pesach which are kasher. Even the bones of a korban pesach which became pasul, for example, notar, you're still not allowed to break the bones. So no, not because of marrow, because you're never allowed to break the bones of the korban pesach. So since you're never allowed to break the bones of the korban pesach, even if it's pasul, you have to burn the entire bone. But not because of the moach, not because the moach is chashuv. Even if the moach was not chashuv. Yeah, it's pasuk, but it's pasuk. The pasuk says ve'etzem lo tishbiru bo. Bo means what? Doesn't matter. But when it says ve'etzem lo tishbiru bo, what doesn't matter? That's what he's saying. The milah bo lo ba lema'et pasul ela ken derech hakatuv lomar. This is the way that the pasuk speaks. That's what he says. Ve'etzem lo tishbiru bo. You cannot break any types of the bones, any types of the bones of the korban pesach. Anything, even if right now we came disqualified. Okay, that's what he said. Yeah, fine. So says the Gemara, afilu bepasul salkatai. Do you really think that we're talking about even if it's going to be bepasul? But now we learned in the Mishnah later on. The Mishnah in Peidaled Amud Aleph, which is mamash the next daf, right, which is going to be Shabbat daf. It says if somebody is going to break the bone of the korban pesach, right, he's going to, if it's a kosher korban pesach, he gets 40 lashes. Avala motir bat tahor. But if somebody is going to leave over meat of the korban pesach, or somebody breaks a korban pesach, which the bones are going to be tameh, eno sofeget arba'im. He's not going to get the arba'im. So therefore, he doesn't get flogged the 40 lashes. So therefore, says the Gemara, la kashya. It's not a question. Why? Kan shaita la shata kosher, kan shelo haita la shota kosher. Which means like this: if it had shat kashrut before it became pasul, so then even after it becomes pasul, you're not allowed to come and you're not allowed to break the bones. But if it never had a shat kashrut, which means that it was never fitting to be a korban pesach, then we're going to say that there's no problem. So therefore, when this Gemara later on, which actually a Mishnah, and Pedaled Amud Aleph says that if you're going to break the bones of a non-kosher Passover offering, right, the Pesach offering, that you're not going to get lashes, it means that it was never kosher. So in that case, you're not going to get it. Okay? So says the Gemara, Uman Tana de Shanile, right? Ben Shaita la Shata Kosher, Ben Shelo Haita la Shata. Who's the Tana that says such a concept? Meaning it's a beautiful answer that you said, but who says it? Right? Because the Mishnah does not say that. The Mishnah just says, you're going to break the bones of a korban pesach, which is pasul. Nothing happens. So says the Gemara, it's Rabbi Yaakov. It's Rabbi Jacob. You know who Rabbi Jacob is? Yeah? Yeah, Rabbi Jacob. So who is it? He says the Tanya, as we learned. Yeah, we learned in a Braita. It says, ve'etzem lo tishbiru bo bekasher velo bepasul. So the Tanakama says, when it says ve'etzem lo tishbiru bo means it and not in a pasul one. However, Rabbi Yaakov, Rabbi Yaakov says, שהייתה לה שעת הכושר ונפסל, יש פה משום שבירת עצם. לא הייתה לה שעת הכושר משום שבירת עצם. So that's the Shita of Rabbi Yaakov, that there's a difference between if it had once upon a time a kosher time that it was kosher as a sacrifice or not. And Rabbi Shimon says, echad ze ve'echad ze, whether it had shata kosher or not, en bo mishum shvirat etzem. Right? There's no going to be shvirat etzem. What does that mean? Rabbi Yaakov and Rabbi Shimon, they're arguing what's in the pshat of the Tanakama. Rabbi Yaakov says that the word bo is actually coming to say it's from mitchilato that it didn't have a shata kosher. Rabbi Shimon says no, the miut is only by a psul shaita lo shata kosher. Okay, that's according to Tosafot. Fine. Says the Gemara, meitvei. So we're going to ask the following question now. Kol atzmot kodashim entunin srefa. All the types of different bones of kodashim that they were left over, they don't need to burn them, except for them. You could just throw out the bones, except for atzmot pesach. Why? Because of the takala. Because takala of breaking the bones. Meaning, if I'm going to come and I'm going to permit you to start throwing the bones out, maybe you're going to start breaking them. Right? I want to save space. So what am I going to do? I'm going to start breaking them. Or instead of throwing it stam like that to the dogs, I'm going to come and I'm going to start breaking. And because of that takala, asur, I have to burn it. So all the other types of bones, I'm allowed to burn them, except for, I'm not. You're allowed to burn them. You're allowed to throw them out. You're allowed to throw them out. Only the korban pesach bones, you have to burn them. Why? So says the Gemara, what are we talking about? Which type of bones? If you're going to tell me that it doesn't have bones, it doesn't have marrow, why do you have to burn them? We just said that you don't have to burn it. Ela pshita di b'moch. Obviously, it does have marrow. He said that if you're going to tell me shimush notar minta that it is so important because of the marrow, atzmot kodashim. So then why don't you need the meaning? Forget about now takala. Forget about the takala. Even without the takala, the fact that you have the marrow and the marrow is something chashuv. So that's why you have to actually come and you have to actually burn the bone because of the marrow which is inside of it. So therefore, obviously, that's what we're trying to say. So says the Gemara, no, I don't want to say that. Why? Because Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak is going to have to answer you. But again, one more time, this is a question on what he just said. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, how do we start off the Gemara? The Gemara started off, says Amar Rabbi Yitzchak. Rabbi Yitzchak says that it's chashuv, and therefore it's a basis davar asur, and therefore you have to burn it. Okay, so therefore we said that it had to be something chashuv. Ask the Gemara, if it's going to be something chashuv, why does the Gemara later on come and say that the only reason why we burn it is because of takala, even without the takala? You burn it because it's davar chashuv. So answers the Gemara, what are we talking about? You already found the bones broken and the moach is already out. So therefore, atzamot kadashim de'en bahem mishum shvilat etzem, atzamot kadashim that there's no isur of breaking the bones. So kame denehevu notar chatzinu. So before they already become notar, you break them, you take out the marrow, right? And then there's no isur notar. Velo avu shimush notar, and therefore it's not going to be a shimush for the notar. Velo ba'u l'srefa, therefore it doesn't need srefa. Atzamot pesach yesh b'hem mishum shvilat etzem. But the atzamot, the bones of the korban pesach, you do have an isur of breaking them. You're not allowed to break the bones of the korban pesach. Levatar denevu notar. You could only do that after it already became notar. That now there's no isur of breaking the bones, and then you take them out. Favelu shimush notar. So if it's going to be shimush notar, and that's why it means srefa. So basically, we just answered up that it's exactly like Rav Mari bar Yitzchak, like Rabbi Yitzchak, the exact same thing. Again, one more time. Other bones, you're allowed to break it. Since you're allowed to burn or to break other bones of kochim, before it becomes notar, you break it open, take out the moach. Right? Now, the bones, they have no kedusha, throw them out. The moach, you have to burn. Chazak baruch. But the korban pesach, you can't do that because you're not allowed to break the bones. When can you break the bones? Only after it became notar. According to the shita, again, there's a machloket, but according to the shita, only after, right, you could break the bones once it becomes notar. Once it became notar, it was already shimsha, it was already chashuv. So now you have to burn the bones because of the bones. That's what it says. That's why it knows. Which one? No, but it's a different reason now. That's why we're making a distinction between the other bones and the bones of korban pesach. So another answer, Razvidamar. What are we dealing with? For example, we're on Pegim Lamubet, 83b. For example, Shemitzan Tziburin Tziburin, you found them piles of piles, Umehen Chalutzin, and you checked the top ones and you found that they were broken, and you took out the moach. So now, says the Gemara, Atzamot Kadashim de'en bahem mishum shvilat etzem, Atzamot of Kodashim, that there's no problem of breaking the bones, Lekulu avachalitz lehu ve'achilu. So you break all of them, you take out the moach, and you could eat them before they become notar. Velo by srefa, and therefore the bottom ones do not need srefa, right? And you don't even have to check them, right? He says, however, though, at Samot of Pesach, that they do have a problem with Shvirat Etzem, Dilma Hani Dechaltzinu, maybe the ones that you actually came and you actually got on the top, right? That you broke and you took out the moach, Ulhanach lo chaltzinu, but the bottom ones you didn't break and you didn't take out the moach. So therefore, because of that, by srefa, that's why you always have to do srefa until you check all of them. Which means that the bottom ones, right? What happens is that if the bottom ones right now, you have an isur of breaking the bones. So therefore, for the bottom ones, I can't do anything until I actually check each one by one. If I check each one by one and then I realize that there's no moach in all of them, so then it's going to be okay. But if I do not check each one, so then what happens is that I'm going to have the problem.
You're check it. You will need to break it, no?
No. You have to check the bottom ones if they're already broken or not. Because again, what happened? You found a whole bunch of piles. Chalutzin, right? Badaket alyanot, you check the top ones and they were already broken, and then you took out the moach. So now what happens? Says the Gemara, if to do with that samot kochim that you're allowed to break it, there's no problem. So therefore, what do? You break even the bottom ones, and since you break the bottom ones, you take out the moach, you eat it before it becomes notar, and then you just throw out the bones, and then you ate it, so there's no notar. But to do with the korban pesach, atzamot of pesach, you can't do that. So if you found a pile, right, and all of a sudden you only found the top ones broken, you cannot break the bottom ones. Because how are you going to break the bottom one? Maybe it's the bones of pesach. Exactly. So what do you have to do? Since you can't break the bottom ones, so therefore, what are you supposed to do? You cannot do anything until you check the bottom ones. If you check the bottom ones and the bottom ones were not broken, so now you have to burn them. Mimanashach, you cannot break these bones because they're Pesach. Pesach is different than another kochim. If it was regular kochim, we're talking about on the 15th of Shvat, 15th of Adar, whatever it is. So then you found a pile, come, break all of them, right? You break all of them, even the ones on the bottom, you break everything. Take out the bone marrow, right? You leave the bones, throw out the bones, you eat the bone marrow before it becomes notar. If you don't, so just burn the marrow. But the bones go to the garbage, right? Or whatever, you throw it to the dogs or whatever it is. You understand? Fine. But by Korban Pesach, even if you found the top ones broken, chazak u'baruch, but you can't break the bottom ones because you're not allowed to break it. So therefore, what do you have to do? You have to burn it because of that. Yeah, you have to burn them. So Amar Rabbi Yehuda, huh? No kashur, right? But we gave them the kelev tashlichunuta. Okay, you have to throw it to the dogs. Yeah, Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Rav. Says Rabbi Yehuda in the name of Rav. Kol agidin basar chutz migideh hatzavar. So all the different types of gidim is considered like meat, except for the gidim of the tzavar, which means that whenever we're talking about meat, in order to be yotzei chovah, eating of the Korban Pesach, if you ate the sinews, meaning you didn't eat the actual flesh, you ate the sinews of the Korban Pesach, it's still considered that you ate the meat, except for the gidim of the tzavar, of the neck, the sinews of the neck, that since, what are they called? Tendons? Tendons. Okay, so the tendons. Right? So the tendons of the neck, except for the tendons, why? Because they are hard. And therefore, since they're hard, it's like it's not basar, it's like an etz dalma, it's like a piece of wood. So therefore, you can't count it. Meaning like this, remember, you always have to eat minimum of a kazait. Right? We learned this many times. You have to eat.
It works for the brain. Some people eat the brain of the, the brain of the.
I know some people eat the brain, but the brain is a different concept. The brain is also a problem of kasher l'shicha and the lev and this. There's a whole bunch of different things about that. But we're not talking about the brain yet. Yeah, but we're talking about the tendons of the neck, right? Because we're talking about different tendons, right? But the tendons of the neck, they have no taste. It's like wood. It's hard. Meaning the other tendons in the body, if you're going to eat a kazait, remember, eating is always with a kazait. And therefore we said that whether it's a zaken or a choleh, when do we say that it's a problem with them? Because they couldn't eat the kazait. But if they could eat the kazait, there's no problem with them. It's only the kazait. Okay? So what happens if somebody's going to eat all the tendons? So as long as he's eating the tendons and he eats the kazait, he's yotzei chovah, except for the tendons of the neck. The tendons of the neck, no taste. It's like wood. And therefore you're eating wood. If you eat wood, you get nothing. Okay? Fine. Says Tanan, we learned in the Mishnah, right? We just said that the bones, the tendons, and the leftovers, you burn them in the 16. Hani gidim, which tendons exactly? What does that mean? Which ones you have to burn? Hechidami. If you're going to tell me now that there's soft ones and they're fitting for eating, nechlinu. So eat it already on the 14th, on the 15th, the night of the 15th, right? With the rest of the, why are you going to burn it? Meaning, why do you have to burn it? I understand you can't eat the bones and you can't break the bones. So what are you going to do? You have to burn the bones, right? But the tendons, eat them. Yeah, tochalota. Yeah, the totar. If you're going to tell me that the guy had too much to eat, so he left it over, right? I know notar, so it's the same thing as notar. So why do you separate? Why did you tell me hatsamot, gitim, ve-notar? Just tell me leftovers. Notar is leftovers. Why do I have to? What are these gidim? The leftovers. What are you talking about? Yeah, hainu notar. Obviously, we're talking about there's only one type of tendons, which are gidim, which you would have to burn because anyway you're not going to eat it, and it's not technically notar. What is that? The gidei tzavar. So if you're going to tell me that it's basar, right? That the gidei tzavar is considered basar, and if you eat them, you're going to be yotzei chovah. Amtulachi by sefa. That's why you need sefa. But if you're going to tell me that it's not basar, lama lu sefa. Why do you need to do basar? Yeah, you understand? Yeah, everyone's wondering about. Okay, very good. Okay, no, just making sure. Okay, very good. So therefore, basically, what we're trying to ask is that obviously it has to be like a type of meat, but it's not like a type of meat, and it's just like the bones. The bones were only because of the marrow that you had to burn it, but not because of any other reason. So here also, if it does not taste, there's no nothing. So therefore, why do you have to burn it? Throw it out in the garbage. So Rav Chasta says, Rav Chasta, la nitzicha. What are we talking about? Ela legida nashe. Ve'aliba de Rabbi Yehuda. We're talking about the gida nashe and Rabbi Yehuda. Why? No, lo tzava. The gida nashe. And according to Rabbi Yehuda,
but there is no gida nashe on the lamb. I mean, I don't. I'm mechila. No. I say I'm sorry.
What?
I'm sorry. Can't we eat the whole animal for the lamb? It's also the top and the bottom.
No, but not the Gid and Nasheh.
Right. Hey,
Never the Gid and Nasheh. Right?
Never. Right.
Yeah, you never eat the Gid and Nasheh. 100%. So it says over here, the Tanya was learned in the right. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, right? Rabbi Yehuda says, what? Yeah, he says, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, they're asking if you sold in kosher land the Gid and Nasheh, the Korban Pesach. Fine.
Everybody asked me, but I didn't have.
Okay, fine. Rabbi Yehuda says, Eno noheg ela be'achat. What does that mean? It's only going to be the Yisur of Gid and Nasheh is only in one of the Gidim. Fadat machrat, and the dat is going to tell you that it's going to be the Gid of Yamin, which means like this. There are two Gidim, right? There are two, what are they called? Those, you said it last time, John Paul. What are they called?
Sciatic nerve.
It's a sciatic nerve. That's
Sciatic.
Sciatic.
Yes.
Okay, the term. Zenith. Okay, sciatic nerve. But no. So listen. So they have sciatic nerve. So what happens is like this. So therefore, what happens is there's two of them. There's one on each foot. Right? They always say you put your foot in it. Yeah. So what happens? They're right and left. So he says which one is a sur. So according to Shitat Rabbi Yehuda only says right that it's only going to be in one of them, and the dat machrat that it's only going to be in the right one. So according to Shitat Rabbi Yehuda, there's a safek which one is a sur. So because there's a safek which one is a sur, both of them, right? Both of them are going to be a sur mi safek. Okay.
This is because Yaakov. This is because Yaakov had been hidden on one side. This is because Yaakov has been
hidden on one side.
On one side.
Exactly. So it says here that's why. So because of that, you have the Gid and Nasheh. So it comes out that the Gid which was mutar is nechshav basar, and you have all the dinim of notar. However, though, since you can't eat it because we don't know which one it is, so both of them are going to be for srifa. You understood? One more time. The Gid is basar. The Gid and Nasheh does actually have taste. It has a good taste, in a sense, meat, right? Well, that's what it's saying here. It has it. It's not like, because the Gemara said that there's only one Gid, one tendon that does not have taste, which was the Gidat Savar. That means every other one does have it. Everyone else does have a taste, right? That's only one which is kashim, and they're like etz be'alma. Everything else has it. So it does have a taste, and therefore it's like basar. So technically speaking, one of them you're allowed to eat, but I have a technical problem. Which one are you allowed to eat? I don't know. So since I don't know which one you're allowed to eat, so because of that, both of them are prohibited. And therefore, since both of them are prohibited, it has a din of nutar. The reason why it's a din of nutar is because at the end of the day, it was real basar. It was real meat. It was a real meat that you're able to eat. The only thing is, I can't eat it because I don't know which one is permitted. Okay? So now the Gemara asks, Ve'ela, but if we're talking about according to the Gid and Nasheh, according to Rabbi Yehuda, Tifshot is safuke misafke le Rabbi Yehuda. 1 second, Rabbi Yehuda had a misafek. As if it was going to be obvious, he should eat the left one, and just throw out the right one. So lama le srefa. So then why do you have to say that you have to do srefa? Elama, you have to say, you're forced to say that according to Shitat Rabbi Yehuda, it was a safek. And therefore, since it's a safek and we don't know which one, meaning it's not that it's for sure, I'm going to say it was the right one and not the left one. I don't know according to Shitat Rabbi Yehuda. So since I don't know according to Shitat Rabbi Yehuda, that's why because of that, both of them are going to be asurim b'achila misafek. And therefore, both of them are going to be for srefa, because on each one I have the safek. Which one is going to be for srefa? So it says, which one?
They know the nikur, the proper nikur.
Korban Pesach and the Gid and Nasheh. Okay, so here you have the Gid and Nasheh. You have the picture. You see, it comes from thanks to Philip Cohen. Yeah, if you want to see it. Did you guys kind of not on the Zoom?
It's a 10.
Okay, it's a 10. You have it here. Okay, fine. Okay. So it says over here like this. So it says, Amar Rav Ika bar Chinana. Says Rav Ika bar Chinana. Really, Be'emet, right? He held not like that. Really, Be'emet, Rabbi Yehuda holds that only the right one is going to be asur, and the left one should be eaten, right? However, though, kegon shehukru ulvasof nitarvu. What happened is that you knew which gid was which, and all of a sudden it was a mix-up. Sometimes there's mix-ups. You know what mix-ups are? That all of a sudden they get changed.
The file got all mixed up.
Yeah. So because
from there on we have a gader.
So because now they get so now became a isur ve'eter. So because now you have an isur ve'eter, you have to burn both of them. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, in that case, that was that case. That case. Okay. So the Gemara is going to say, Ravashi comes and he says, 1 second. Lo nitzrecha ela leshamnod gid nasheh. We're not talking about the gid. We're talking about the shuman of the gid. Here in the picture that Philip sent us, we have the gida chitzon, gida primi, and shumano shel gid, the fats of the gid, which means, I don't know if you could see it clearly. I don't know. Okay, right? The shumano shel gid. What does it mean, the shumano shel gid? We're not talking about the actual gid in itself. We're talking about the shuman. The Tanya, we learned in the Braita, shumano, shamno, the shuman of the gid is mutar min Torah. But Yisrael kedoshim hem, the Yisraelim, we are holy. V'noagim bo isur, and therefore we're going to do an isur on it. So it comes out that this shuman, which was from the beginning to srefa, mina Torah, you're allowed to eat it, and there's an isur of notar. But because of the minhag, we don't know it. So that means forget about what? It's like chelev. We're making it like chelev, but really be'emet it's mutar. What? Okay, but shuman is mutar. Chelev is prohibited. Right? Chelev is prohibited. So here we are noheg an extra chumrah. So technically speaking, really be'emet, we're not talking about the gid and the really be'emet, the gid and the you have the right one and the left one, and we're not talking about taravot. We're not talking about that. What are we talking about? Shumano shel gid. Shumano shel gid. Technically, it's permitted, but since we are noheg bo isur, we don't eat it. But it's basar. It's shuman. You're allowed to. Technically, you're allowed to eat it. So because of that, it has din of notar. And therefore it could become notar, and therefore we actually burn it and everything, and it's not notar. It's got the dinim of notar, but it has a taste, obviously. Ravina comes and he says another answer. The Mishnah is talking about bagida chitzon. So this is what Philip again. Every single case here was brought. Here you have. Okay, I'm going to pass around the phone so you could actually see it. Right. First, I'm going to show it to everyone here. You have the gida primi, gida chitzon, and you have the shuman. If you could all see it here. This one over here is called the gida primi, the inner sciatic nerve, and this is the outer one. Okay, take it and pass it around if you want, so they could also see it. Which means that there's three. Every single one in that picture is a different answer in the picture. The first original answer is that really we have two gid and ashes, right? The right and the left. We have a safek. So if you have a safek, right, it's a sur, right? Both of them are a sur. Yeah, that's the first answer. Both of them are a sur because I don't know which one's which. Second answer was no. He knows for sure Rabbi Yehuda. The right one is a sur, left one is mutar, but they got mixed up. Third answer, nothing to do with the actual gid in itself. It's the shuman of the gid. So the shuman of the gid is the problem, not the gid in itself. The last answer, right? The last answer, we're not talking about the shuman of the gid. We're talking about the gid chitzon, which means there's two gids. There's the inner one and the outer one. So therefore, the Mishnah is talking about the chitzon. And like Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel, the Amar Rav Yehuda Shmuel says, Shmuel, shnei gidin, and there are two different types of gids. Okay? Yeah, lovezai. There's the gida primi and gida chitzon. Okay, so the inner one and the outer one. The two different types of the tendons, or the sciatic nerves. So shnei gidin, and the two types. Pnimi is samuch le'etzen. The inner one is close to the bone. Asur, that one's asur to eat. The chayavim alav, and you're going to be chayav malkut if somebody eats a mina Torah, because it's a lotase. You're not allowed, right? When it says you're not allowed to eat, right? The gida nasheh, it's a negative commandment. Right? However, though, says the Gemara, the chitzon, which is samuch basar, is asur, ve'en chayvim alav. You're not chayav malkut, right? Why? It's only midrabanan. Which one? It's a chumrah. It's a darabanan, which means it's only darabanan. It's really be'emet, it's permitted. It's only midrabanan. So it comes out that the gida chitzon is waiting to be burnt because technically speaking, you're allowed to eat it. It was only because of the darabanan that you're not allowed to eat it, and therefore you have to burn it. Okay? 2 dots. Says the 2 dots. Chal shisha asar. Okay, until here, everyone's clear. Yes? Very good. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Very good. Chal Shisha Asar. So we're talking about the 16th of Nisan that comes out on Shabbat. So what do we say? You have to burn it on the 17th because you have to push it off. Because remember, it does not push off Shabbat or Yom Tov. Says the Gemara, Ve'amai, why do we say that notar is not pushing off Yom Tov? Neiti aseh. Come and bring the positive commandment of Ba'esh Tisrofu, right? Because we say by notar that anything which is left over, right? It says in the pasuk, "V'lo totiru mimenu al-boker, and mimenu boker ba'esh tisrofu." We just learned it in Parashat Bo. So in Parashat Bo, we said you're not allowed to leave over anything of the Korban Pesach, but if you did leave it over, ba'esh tisrofu, positive commandment, you have to burn it in a fire. But then that's a positive commandment. So why doesn't that push off the negative commandment of yisiat melacha, which means that it says, "Kol melacha lo yaseh vahem." So the positive commandment, aseh tochelo ta'aseh. The positive commandment should push off a negative commandment. So the burning of the notar should push off Yom Tov at least. Obviously not Shabbat, but at least of Yom Tov, right? So says the Gemara, Amar Chizkiah comes and he says, "V'chen Tanat v'Chizkiah." They taught in the academy also of the Bet Midrash of Chizkiah. Amar Ka. It says in the pasuk, "Lo tetiru mimeno ad boker, v'anotan mimeno ad boker b'esh tisrofu." She'en tol ma lomar ad boker. What is it coming to tell you now? Ad boker, the second time around, right? What does that mean, right? Because it said it twice. One more time. Lo tetiru mimeno ad boker, v'anotan mimeno ad boker. Mata mulomar ad boker. Liten lo boker sheni, to give a second boker, because it was written twice boker, right? So since it was written twice boker, so it's a boker sheni, right? Lisrefato, which means you're not doing it on the first one, you're doing it on the second one. So because of that means even though usually you would apply aseh doche lo taseh, meaning usually you would apply the logic that a positive commandment pushes off a negative commandment, right? However, though, in this case, it's a special deen. It's a special deen. Why is it a special deen? Ad boker twice, the second boker, there's a boker sheni. What's a boker sheni? Not the first day, the second day. So you do it on the second day. Okay? Sorry, we just read that. Abaye comes and he says, another makor. Amar Ka, it says in a pasuk, Olat Shabbat, Shabbato. Only you're allowed to do the Olat Shabbat in its Shabbat. Velo Olat Chol b'Shabbat, velo Olat Chol b'Yom Tov. You're not allowed to do an Olat Chol on Shabbat or an Olat Chol b'Yom Tov. So therefore, you see from here that even Ekter Evarim of a Korban Chol does not push off Yom Tov. So Kol Sheken then burning of a, meaning even if you would have a regular Korban, it does not push off of Yom Tov. So if a regular Korban does not push off Yom Tov, Kol Sheken, Notar, does not push off Yom Tov. But Notar is not really a Korban. It's just you have to burn the leftovers. A third place, Rava comes and he says, a third Mekor. How do we know that it does not push off Yom Tov? Amar Ka, it says to do with the pasuk of Yom Tov. Kol melacha lo yaseh v'melach al shei l'chol hu levado yaseh lachem. This pasuk is teaching us that you're allowed to do melacha on Yom Tov tzorech ochel nefesh, which means for you to eat. You're allowed to eat. However, though, when it says hu levado, what does it mean? Hu velo machshirav. When it says the word hu, it's only the melechet ochel nefesh itself which is permitted on Yom Tov. For example, the shchita, afiyana, but not the machshirei ochel nefesh, which means anything which is done, like preparing the skewers, or preparing the oven, or preparing the knife, and all those things, those are called machshirei ochel nefesh. Machshirei means the ones which are like the preparations for that is not permitted to be doche Yom Tov. Only the actual melacha in itself is permitted, but not the machshirei is going to be permitted. What does it mean now? That's the word hu, levado. What is the word levado? Levado comes and tells you only melechet ochel nefesh is permitted on Yom Tov. Velo, Peidaled Amud Aleph, we're just going to the Mishnah, it's 2 to 3 lines down. Velo, Milah Shelo Bizmana, but not a Brit Milah, which is not Bizmana, Haba Mikal Vachomer, which means a Brit Milah, which is done after the 8th day, is not permitted to do it on Yom Tov. Why? Because if it wasn't for this mi'ut, right? If it wasn't for this mi'ut, we would have permitted it from a Kal Vachomer. If Milah Bizmana, right? By Milah Shelo Bizmana, we would have learned that any mitzvah which is not kavua and you could wait until after Yom Tov, it's not doche Yom Tov. So therefore, mitzvah sefat kadashim psulim, it's not zman kavua, so it's not going to push off Yom Tov. So therefore, that's why it comes over here and it's teaching us that if it wasn't for the fact of the word levado, that is what it's teaching us. Last answer. How do we know that sefat kadashim psulim are not going to be doche Yom Tov? Ravashti amar shabbaton the Yom Tov is asehu. By Yom Tov, you don't only have a negative commandment. You have a negative commandment, lo yaseh melacha, and also Shabbaton Shabbat, which is a positive commandment. So it becomes a positive and negative. So here, the positive commandment of burning notar can only push off a negative, but it cannot push off a positive and a negative. So therefore, since by Yom Tov it's a positive and a negative, so that's why it does not push it off. So therefore, you had there how many reasons? 1, 2, it was 4, no? 4. Mekor shlishi, tam acher. Madua srefa kodesh. Yeah, it's 3 or 4. 4 different reasons. Okay, very good. So tomorrow, Be'ezrat Hashem, tomorrow morning we continue with